Hello and welcome to Dad and Swebb Talk Sports. I'm Swebb.
And I'm Dad.
And we are the dad and daughter duo talking about all of our favorite sports moments from the week. Dad, what's up?
Not much, Swebb. What's up with you?
The Knicks are in the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are.
Are you excited?
I'm excited.
Okay, I'm can
excited.
barely tell.
I'm excited, Swebb. Yep, you know what they say. Gotta act like you've been there before, Swebb.
Well, if you've seen the highlights of Knicks fans celebrating in Midtown Manhattan, certainly not acting like they've been there because it's been 25 years.
I know.
I was in middle school.
Okay. I was in high school the last time they won a championship. But usually those big celebrations are reserved for championships. Remember, you have to win 4 different series to win the championship. We've won 2. You have to win 16 games in total. They've won 8. They're halfway up the mountain. They still got another halfway to go.
Listen, I believe in celebrating the small things and the big things, and this was quite a big series win. But before we jump into the Knicks, are you a Clemson fan now? What's happening here?
Well, a funny thing happened about a month ago. I'm walking into the supermarket one day. I had a North Carolina shirt on, and this big guy comes out, and he says,
"Bigger than you?"
I could have fit in his pocket.
He has big
And
pockets.
he says, "You got the wrong Carolina shirt on." I said, my South Carolina shirt or my Clemson shirt is in the wash. So I had to wear this North Carolina shirt. So I went out and bought myself a Clemson shirt.
So you got bullied into wearing a Clemson shirt.
Hey, that guy was bigger than me.
What would happen if you'd run into him in Durham? Would you be wearing a Duke shirt?
If I had say that again?
If you had run into him in Durham, North Carolina, would you have been wearing a Duke shirt?
Well, speaking of Durham, the last few times I've gone to Durham, last week I was up there, I had a Duke shirt on.
I barely even know who you are. Okay.
I like to mix it up.
Are you feeling okay?
I'm feeling okay. A little
This
down
isn't
though,
like an
Swebb.
equal opportunity fandom. You don't just, represent every team that comes across into town, rolls up into town.
It's not the team, Swebb. It's the dude. My man
I get
Andrew.
the Duke fandom because you're a Duke lacrosse fan. You're not a
Yes, I
Duke
am.
fan. You're a Duke lacrosse fan. But now you're wearing Clemson. I mean, what are we going to do? Have a T-shirt for every college in these major conferences?
Well, your brother's former babysitter, she's a cheerleader at Clemson.
Well, would you be wearing a Ohio State shirt if you were in Columbus, Ohio?
You'll never see me with one of those.
Okay. I just wanted to find out how dedicated are you?
Unless one of the grandkids happen to go there and is on a team.
But I know you're going to try and brainwash them to make sure that they don't go there. It's not even going to be an option.
Is brainwash the appropriate word, Swebb?
Okay. So what's going on? What have you been up to?
Last Saturday night, I was up at Duke in Durham to see Duke and Georgetown in the first round of the NCAA playoffs. Unfortunately, Georgetown won that game. My man Andrew scored a goal and an assist, but the face-offs just killed them. They lost like 20-something face-offs, and they were on defense like the whole second half of the game, and it's just a killer. So he ended his season and his career at Duke. He graduated the next day. But when one door closes, another door opens. He starts his professional career in a few weeks as the number 2 pick in the entire draft.
Amazing. All
the
good things
California
must
Redwoods.
come to an end.
Say that again?
All good things must come to an end. Congratulations
you know what?
to Andrew on a successful college career and on graduating.
Yeah, so
And
I don't
on
know whether
turning
he's...
Dad into a Duke fan for the past 4 years.
Yeah, two and a half.
2.5. Okay.
I saw every one of his games the last 2.5 years except one.
All right. Well, I'm sure he appreciates the dedication.
I'm dedicated, Swebb. Great kid. I don't know whether he's going to be a CEO of a company, head coach of a college lacrosse team, but he's going to be something big.
All right, good stuff. Well, I've been great. Thanks for asking, Dad. You mentioned
Swebb,
my tan
I can
just
never
before I
find
pressed
you.
record.
About a week ago, I texted you and said, when are we taping tonight? And you said, I just got to Mexico. You just got to You didn't even tell me you were going to Mexico.
Bienvenidos. I did. You probably weren't listening. I just got back from Mexico on Saturday. Just another quick little vacay. You know, I had a friend who invited me down to go on a trip with two of my friends. As you can tell, I've been sitting in the sun. I got my nice summer base looking nice and like a crisp piece of bacon, a little chocolatey as well. But feeling good, feeling relaxed. Got to wear my kimono. I have this dream of living a caftan life, as I call it, where you just walk around barefoot in a caftan all the time. So I got to live that dream by wearing my kimono poolside. And I got to catch up on the Knicks games. I watched the Knicks games in Espanol, the Spanish broadcast for ESPN. And I did a little bit of exercising, Dad, because when you have a lot of tacos and chips and guacamole, you also need to get in some exercising. So I did a few, the resort was on the side of a mountain. So I did a lot of like hills and some weightlifting, some things just to get in shape because summer's right around the corner.
If I ate a taco and some guacamole and some chips, that wouldn't even dirty my mouth, Swebb. You couldn't. You talk about. You consider that eating, and you got to do exercise to work that off.
The food was fantastic. We had a big breakfast every day. We had tacos by the pool, and then we had fajitas one night. We had a taco night the other night. Tons of rice, steak tacos, shrimp, chicken, pork. All of these fresh guacamole. I mean, the thing when you leave the United States of America and you go to a place like Mexico where the produce is fresh, when you cut up an avocado, it actually stays green for more than 5 minutes. It stays green for like 24 hours. So maybe even more at times because we had leftover guacamole because there were only 3 of us and there was just so much food. So I am full. I did not run this morning, but I will run tomorrow morning.
Am I going to see you later in the week?
You are going to see me. I am taking another trip. This one is not vacation because when I'm spending time at family, it doesn't usually feel like vacation. So, yeah, another trip, another flight for me.
Okay.
So let's talk the Knicks because boy, oh boy, you know, you can tell that I no longer work for the team because I've planned all these vacations right smack dab in the middle of the playoffs, and I've had to try and keep up while looking for the international broadcast. And
how do you go out of the country in the middle of playoffs with all this action going on?
Who am I to turn down a vacation? All right, so let's just break things down. I'm sure everyone knows, and unless you've been living under a rock, the Knicks defeated the Boston Celtics 4-2 in the Eastern Conference semifinals. They will go on to play the Indiana Pacers for the Eastern Conference Finals starting on Wednesday night in the best of 7 series. When we were talking a few weeks ago, we were a little nervous about, playing Detroit. We talked about this the last episode that we had. The Celtics had really laid a beat down on the Knicks. The matchup wasn't great all season long, but we talked about Mitchell Robinson being the X factor in the series. And lo and behold, the Knicks go on to just really embarrass the Celtics in the last game of the series, Game 6 on Friday night. They end up winning 119-81 to close out the series.
The Celtics gave up kind of like in the middle of that game. They were down by about 30 at halftime, and Jaylen Brown, Mr. $300 million man, he fouls out with a few minutes to go in the third period. He just wanted out. And because he got tired of the embarrassment. Then it comes out yesterday that he has a partial meniscus tear. So who knows?
You know, I will
These
say,
guys, I just don't have the tolerance for ball players, especially the highly paid guys, the top, supposed top guys, that when their team is getting run rolled, they're ready to sit down on the bench and let the substitutes take the beating.
now the Celtics were without Jason Tatum, their best player, after he ruptured his Achilles in Game 4 of the series. Game 4 of the series. And that was a game that the Knicks went on to win to lead the series 3-1. Now in Game 5, the Celtics came roaring back. They played a complete game. I actually think that the offense runs better without Jason Tatum in the lineup, which is a little bit sounds blasphemous to say as one of an all NBA player, your all-star, your star player, not in the lineup. But the ball moves a lot more on offense when he's not in the lineup because he likes to dribble a lot and shoot a lot. So they came
were
back
8-2 without him this year.
8-2, and they won by 25 points in that game against the Knicks in Boston for Game 5. So I was a little nervous, honestly, going into Game 6. I think they had all of this adrenaline. The Celtics had all this adrenaline, knowing that they could defeat the Knicks without their star player. And the Knicks just left no doubt. They just completely stomped on them from the first quarter. And that's, as a fan, what you want to see. You want to see, hey, this is our closeout game. We bundled the closeout game in Game 5, but we're not going to let it happen 2 games in a row. And they just came out to a huge lead. At times, they were up by 40 points. And this is the defending champions and the number 2 seed in the East. So just a job well done by the Knicks as well as the coaching staff. I've just been impressed with Tom Thibodeau all postseason in the way that he's using the players in matchups, taking Karl Anthony Towns out late in games, taking Jalen Brunson out late in games when the Knicks are on defense, and putting in Miles McBride and Mitchell Robinson to add some defense. I think, and we've talked about this before, some of these pick and rolls that the Knicks had trouble with. We talked about how Mitchell Robinson, he talks on the court. There was a game during the Pistons series where he was mic'd up and he's talking. And I think that intensity has really kind of permeated into the whole entire lineup. They're just playing at a completely different level. Mikal Bridges averaged 2 steals per game in the series against Boston, or 2.3. OG Anunoby also averaged 2 steals. So, and Jalen Brunson, at times when he had to play defense, he really buckled down, got into a defensive stance, moved his feet, and didn't foul. So even although he lacks defensively, he really took it on himself to try and play the best defense he could. So just a job well done by the Knicks and the Knicks coaching staff there.
Yeah, they knew that they had to get the job done. You didn't want to go back to Boston for a Game 7, so you couldn't play games anymore. And the fans really did a good job in Game 6, on their feet the whole game, loud from the beginning of the game, every possession. That can really uplift the team. So the same thing happened in Oklahoma yesterday with Oklahoma and Denver. The Oklahoma City fans really got into it. So we'll see. Now they move on to Indiana.
Now, one thing to caution. Now, I'm not going to act like we've been here before because it's been 25 years. I'm going to celebrate every game, and I'm going to like it. And I'm putting my stake in the ground that the Knicks are winning the NBA championship this year. Okay? I feel it. They're playing well. They have a ton of confidence. They just beat up on the defending champions, and now they're going to play the Indiana Pacers. They have home court advantage. The number 1 team in the East is out. Anything is up for grabs at this point when you're down to the last 4 teams, 2 in the East, 2 in the West.
The number 1 and number 2 teams are out, and the Celtics, Boston, they were the man.
Right.
And you can't be the man until you beat the man. So they just beat the man.
They did beat the man, and guess what? They beat them with a 7-man rotation because the minutes, and I know you don't like to talk about the minutes, but I think that's my one concern going into the Indiana series because Indiana has a lot more depth. They play a quicker paced game. So those are my concerns, because if you look at the starting five for the Knicks, they're averaging about 35 minutes per game in the Celtics series, and then you had Deuce and Mitch averaging 20 points per game. I think that Tom Thibodeau is going to have to widen up that rotation, put some trust in some other guys to play Indiana, because just a few stats on Indiana in terms of the way that they've played this postseason. Now, they beat up on the number one team in the East, who was clear and away the best team all season in the Eastern Conference. They end up winning their series in 5 games, 4-1. Defensively, the Knicks and the Pacers are about even. The defensive rating for Indiana is 111.9. The Knicks have a better defensive rating at 110.6. Offensively, though, the Indiana Pacers, they were the number 2 team in the playoffs. Out of 16 teams that have played in the playoffs, they're the number 2 team. Their offensive rating is 117.3. The Knicks is at 110.7. Despite blowing out the Celtics in Game 6, the first 2 games were around 100 points scored by each team. Right. Now, from a pace perspective, this is the speed of the game. Indiana's number 3 out of the 16 teams that made it to the postseason at 99.27. The Knicks are number 8 at 95.30. Now, the Knicks like to push the ball, and you've got guys like Josh Hart that certainly can drive the ball, grab a defensive rebound, and drive it all the way down the court to the other side and score. But you don't want to get in a track meet when you only have 7 guys. Now, they are in great shape because they've been playing long minutes every game this season, but playoff basketball is a little bit different. So that's one thing that's concerning for me. And offensively, Indiana has been one of the most effective teams in the postseason. Their offensive field goal percentage is 58.3, which is number 1, and the Knicks are at 51% for number 14 out of 16 teams. So they're playing a slightly different team. They're playing a team that's hot. I think you have 2 hot teams facing off against each other. So this isn't going to be, hey, the Knicks have beat the Pacers twice this season. This is going to be a tough series.
And it's a team that the Knicks lost to last year in the playoffs, and Indiana beat them in the 7th game at Madison Square Garden. So they have plenty of confidence. They're not afraid of the Knicks at all.
And I saw today, Monday afternoon, in some of their press conferences that they've been talking smack, which is something that a lot of the players on that roster like to do. Now, I will say, last year when Indiana beat the Knicks had about 4 guys and 2 concessions workers in the lineup. Jalen Brunson was out. Julius Randle was out. I think Dante DiVincenzo was like the only player in the starting lineup that was healthy.
OG was hurt. He only got into like a few minutes of that last game and he couldn't even move. Mitchell Robinson didn't play. Right. Randle didn't play. Brunson broke his hand midway through that 7th game. Hart was playing with abdominal problems.
Right. So this is a slightly different team. And I will also say, just bringing it back to the Celtics, because a lot of Celtics fans are like, oh, the team is hurt. We have all these injuries. Last year, the Knicks had no one. So let's not go crazy here in terms of woe is me, because the Knicks literally had no one. We thought that you were going to have to lace them up at one point last year.
I would have been ready, Swebb. If they had called me, I'd have been down there.
You wouldn't have been able to handle the pace, okay? That pace that Indiana is working with, you wouldn't be able to handle that.
I could have sat in the corner and just shot.
Okay.
Then I could go down low and throw my weight around.
So then the Knicks would have probably, instead of losing in 7-game series, in 7 games, they probably would have been swept if you were in that lineup.
I could have thrown my weight around down there for a few minutes.
It's going to be a tough series. And in the regular season, now the Knicks and Pacers played 3 games. The Knicks won 2. The Pacers won 1. They're averaging around 125 points per game in those games. So this hasn't been a defensive matchup during the regular season. But I will say that Mitchell Robinson, the X factor, did not play in any of those games.
No, he didn't play. He got hurt in January. He didn't play after that. No. He came back and he got hurt in that Philadelphia series, the first series. So he didn't play at all against Indiana. And then he didn't play again until late in this season because he had 2 surgeries.
shout out to Mitch for, just being everywhere on the court. I mean, not afraid to guard guys on the perimeter, not afraid to get down low and block some shots, not afraid to pressure guys in the corner. I mean, he has truly been, those are some things that you don't always see in the box score, but that he's doing that have been incredible. He has been the X factor.
And in one game, I think it was the fifth game, he went 6 for 6 from the free throw line.
He did.
So you know what that tells me? That tells me after he had that horrible performance the game before, he probably stayed in the gym all night and was shooting free throws.
And they have showed in pregame of him just staying at the free throw line, taking those extra shots.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, he's the one guy on this team that has been here through a lot of the chaos and was here just as the team was making this shift and bringing in new front office and new players, making all these acquisitions. So if there's one person who truly deserves it on this team, it is Mitchell Robinson. But I will say that this team has been playing lights out with a ton of heart.
He's the longest tenured Knick. I remember he came here, I think at 19, and he could barely talk. I remember his first press conference. He was second-round pick. They were asking him questions, and he was fumbling and stumbling around. They had to answer the questions for him. And he's come a long, long way.
Now, although I'm confident that the Knicks are going to win.
And just so you know, one more thing on him. I'll tell you the kind of person he is. His high school coach that he had down in Louisiana, his wife died a few years ago, and he had that man come up and live with him because he's an older gentleman, and He knew he was lonely, and he meant so much in his career. He had him come up and live with him.
Last year, while he was recovering from his ankle surgery, which was a great story. I am very confident in the Knicks. I have my new New York Knicks shirt. Not that I needed a new one, but I just wanted to get in the mix. Like I felt like I needed some new swag for.
Don't you have
for
enough
the Eastern
stuff?
Conference Finals?
You're always
I
looking to
do
buy
have a
something.
starter jacket, but it's getting into summer. The starter jacket's great in the winter during the winter games. I wore it the other day and I was sweating, but I didn't want to take it off because it was part of the look. So I got myself a nice oversized T-shirt. I'll wear this in the airport so I can look at people and be like, go Knicks, like now that's what everyone was doing on the flight to Mexico the other day. So the Indiana Pacers have been a spoiler for the Knicks. 2013, I was working at the Garden. I thought for sure that the Knicks, they had a great team that year. Knicks tape. They had a talented team. And they faced the Indiana Pacers. We thought, hey, they're going to get to the Eastern Conference Finals and they're going to have to face the Miami Heat. They're going to have to face LeBron, D-Wade, Chris Bosh. But they're getting there. There's no question. And they ended up losing, I think, in 5 games.
That was the year the Knicks had Jeremy Lin?
Yes. No, that was they had Carmelo Anthony, Iman Shumpert, J.R. Smith. They just had a really fun squad, and they had finally gotten into the second round of the playoffs for the first time in many years. And they faced the Indiana Pacers, like Roy Hibbert. They had a ton of size, and they just kind of wilted away. So I'm concerned, and the last time that the Knicks were playing this well, the Indiana Pacers have been kind of like that thorn in the side, both in 2013 and back in the early 2000s.
Yeah,
with
Reggie Miller days.
So I'm confident in my squad, but that doesn't mean these aren't going to be easy games. It's going to be stressful. I'm going to be pacing around. We can pace around together this week.
Nothing's going to be easy going forward here. You got to work. And you got to try to grind out the wins.
But I could see it. And now you've got in Western Conference, you've got the Minnesota Timberwolves versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. OKC has been one of the best teams in the league. They're the number 1 seed in the West. Minnesota's the number 6 seed. And now all 4 teams have players that previously played for the Knicks on their rosters. So someone who played for the Knicks like in the past 2 to 3 years will end up with a championship ring. And I'm hoping it's the Knicks.
We'll see. We'll see. It's right there for him,
It
but
is
it won't
certainly
be.
right there.
It will not be easy.
But it's been fun. And I'm thinking if next week when I'm back in New York, if they end up winning the Eastern Conference Finals, I might go down to 7th Avenue and
Okay.
34th Street, start climbing on billboards. All right? I might do it. I haven't seen this in a long time.
I couldn't believe how many people were out there.
Yes,
It went blocks away from Madison Square Garden, all
it
the way up
sure
and down.
did. It would actually be my worst nightmare in many situations, but this feels like a really joyous occasion. So stay tuned for that. We'll take it game by game, but we will celebrate the wins.
Nothing
8 more
brings
wins
people-
to go.
Nothing
and the
brings
Knicks are
people
NBA
together
champions.
more than sports.
This is true. And New York has been buzzing. This was a very important sports week for New York because the Yankees and Mets also faced each other for the first time in the 2025 MLB season. And Juan Soto returned to the Bronx. And he didn't have the showing that he was hoping for. The Yankees ended up taking 2 out of 3 games. Some superb pitching by the Yankees, both starters and bullpen. I think the team ERA was around 2.33 for the series. The Yankees going into Sunday night's game tied 2-2 in the 8th. They get some guys on board. This is the game changer with speed. Jason Dominguez getting on. He's on third base. You have the error by Pete Alonso. Ends up scoring the game-winning run. And the Yankees tacked on a few more runs after that with the Cody Bellinger grand slam. And then you don't have to use your closer, and the game is out of reach. So the Yankees looked great. Juan Soto, not so much.
The Mets have had the best pitching in baseball so far this year. And but their infield defense is a little shaky, and that's what hurt them last night. Kind of partially hurt them. But Soto, he put a target on his back, taking all that money. And the same thing A-Rod did years ago when he.
Well, you know what the latest is now.
What's the latest?
The latest status of today is that he, according to Michael Kay, wanted to be a Yankee, but his family wanted him to be a Met, so he decided to choose the Mets. So,
well, it's not just what TB took. It's when you take 760, 50, whatever it is, million, and you're the highest paid guy in the whole sport. Now you have a target on your back, and everybody's coming after you. And if you don't, then it puts more pressure. Because remember, all these guys are human beings. He's only 20-something years old. He's not like some 50 or 60-year-old man that has been around for you. So even though he's a tremendous baseball player and he's destined for the Hall of Fame, he's still a human being. So now he's got all these eyes. He's got 50,000 people in the ballpark looking at him. He's got millions and millions of people on TV looking at him. And then he's got the media he has to deal with. And then he's got this $760-something million salary, contract hanging over his head. It's just a lot of pressure that you don't have to. If he had taken $500 million, he wouldn't have had this kind of pressure.
Listen, if he wants to, I'm not a big into handouts, but if he wants to start doling out money, I'm happy to take some off his hands.
It's too
late. The guy
late.
is batting .246, 8 home runs, 20 RBIs on the season. He went 1 for 10 in the series with 2 runs, no RBIs. Just to put it into perspective,
it's not. That's not.
What's done
happen.
is done. I'm not giving Juan Soto the attention of booing him. I don't really care what happens. It doesn't look like he's enjoying himself this season.
Well, when you're
That's
not
what
producing,
a lot of the broadcasters are saying. Lack of hustle. You know, there are things you can control, right? So he chose this life. It is what it is. You can still go out with a positive attitude. You can still run down the baseline when you ground out, whenever you make contact with the ball. And he also was supposed to be mic'd up during the game, Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, and he decided to dodge that, and they ended up going with one of the other players for the Mets.
Nemo, who did a tremendous job.
Yes.
That guy's going to be on TV one day. He did a tremendous job.
Listen, he chose this life. I'm not necessarily concerned. I'm not even going to give him the energy of booing him. But to also just set the scene for the Yankees. One of the things that I like to see. We know Aaron Judge is Aaron Judge. He's even better than the Aaron Judge that we know. He's batting over 400, and we're towards the end of May. But Cody Bellinger was 7 for 11 in the series with 2 home runs, 7 RBIs. That was one of the replacements and one of the guys that they were able to pick up for because they didn't spend all this money on Juan Soto. DJ LeMahieu back in the lineup went 3 for 8, is batting 375 in the 2 games that he played. Paul Goldschmidt has been great, lights out, 3 for 12 in this series, 3 runs, 3 RBIs, but has had clutch hits. He's really been the only other guy in the lineup for the most part that has been as consistent offensively as Aaron Judge. And then Devin Williams, finally getting on track. He had 2 appearances in the series, 2 innings pitched, 0 runs, which is a big deal considering the fact that he was giving up runs like a sieve releases water. And
what about Loizaga?
Loizaga is back. You had Max Fried pitch 6 innings. He's 6-0 this year. 6 innings, 2 runs. He's been great all season. So some of these guys that they were able to sign or trade for because of the fact that they didn't spend all this money on Juan Soto are now starting to produce or have been producing throughout the season. So the Yankees the AL East is not that good this year. They're usually one of the best divisions in baseball. Right now, the Yankees are in first place in the AL East. They're 5 games ahead of the Boston and Toronto for first place.
And they're the only team in the division that's over 500.
Right.
It's been the worst division in baseball.
So they will head to the West Coast. After playing Texas, they'll play Texas Tuesday through Thursday at home. Then they'll head out west. They'll play Colorado. They'll play the Angels. And they'll also play the LA Dodgers. So Yankees looking good. As far as I'm concerned, I'm riding high, my friend. Vamos. Vamos.
Soto's, I'll tell you the same. I'll tell Met fans the same thing I said this time in May, early May last year when Lindor couldn't buy a hit. And I said, he's too good. He's one of the best players. And what happened? He wound up being second or third in the MVP voting in the National League. Same thing's going to happen with Soto.
Yeah,
he's too good.
He's going to turn it around.
Cream always rises to the top in baseball.
He's
always
not going to hit 246 all season. But it does feel nice. It's like when you break up with someone and you end up dating someone better. And that guy looks like he's all sad in the corner. Like, damn, I let her get away. The one that got away. Meanwhile, you've got your new boyfriend. He's more attractive. He loves you more. He buys you gifts. He takes you to nice restaurants. And you're happy. And he's over there, like, looking at your Instagram, seeing what you're up to. But he can't have you. So, sorry, Juan. But you have enough money, so
Juan Soto will be fine. Juan Soto will be fine.
He will.
Just relax. Because remember the Yankees got to play him again this year, and then there's always a possibility of playing him in the playoffs.
This goes back to the theme of celebrating the little things. Okay. Now I'm not gonna curse him to death or anything like that. I'm not wishing ill will on the guy in a season-ending injury, but I will celebrate the wins. All right, so
who in his family wanted him to sign with the Mets?
I don't know. Probably his mom.
See what happens when you listen to women?
Is that really how you want to end this episode? Okay, so
see what happens, Swebb?
What are you excited about this week, Tad?
I'm excited about you coming down here. Can you help me get on some kind of exercise regimen when you're down here?
Absolutely.
Over at the gym?
Your wish is my command. I am here. You know what? I am excited for the Knicks playoffs, the Eastern Conference Finals, obviously. I'm excited to go to Charleston, spend time with you, spend time with Mom, spend time with the rest of the family, nieces, nephews, sister-in-law, brother. But now I'm really excited to put you on a workout plan. We can get
I
out
didn't
there
say
together.
Put me on a workout plan. I just said, kind of let's...
Well, I'm packing my sneakers. I'm packing my workout clothes. So, just get ready. And we can also put you on a diet because diet is just as important. I'm going to be cooking. I'm going to be cooking while I'm down there as well.
Yeah, your mother told me.
Yeah, so we can stop having hot dogs and hamburgers 4 times during a
I saw her come
5-day
back with the
visit.
stuff from the supermarket that you
Okay,
asked
you
her to
just
buy.
wait.
I didn't
You
see
just wait.
anything there that would
You
interest
just
me.
wait. I got some steak in there.
I heard about that.
Okay. All right. Before we sign off for the week, Dad, do you want to leave everyone with a tip of the week?
I was thinking about a good one yesterday, Swebb, when I was watching something or I was driving someplace in the car. But because I was in the car, I didn't write it down. So I'll have it for you next week.
Okay.
But
Well-
just remember this, Swebb. Don't count your chickens before they hatch. Don't celebrate too soon. Practice a little delayed gratification.
Listen, I say celebrate the small things, celebrate the big things. Now, you don't have to climb a billboard after the game one win, but celebrate
light pole
the small
out there.
things, celebrate the big things, enjoy the ride. All right. That does it for this week's episode of Dad and Swebb Talk Sports. Be sure to follow us at Dad and Swebb on Instagram and X, and subscribe on YouTube and Rumble, and share this episode with a friend. We will see you next week. Go Knicks!
So long.
Thank you for tuning in to Dad and Swebb Talk Sports, the show where we cover all of our favorite sports moments from the past week. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and Rumble, and follow us at Dad and Swebb on Instagram and X. See you next week.